He posted the photo at 8:00 a.m. A diamond ring worth more than his ex-wife's car, captioned, "Finally, a woman who matches my ambition." Derek thought he had played the game of life perfectly. He had dumped his boring starter wife, Lydia, for the flashy, young Jessica, convinced he was trading up. He was busy planning the wedding of the century, bragging to every co-worker and friend who would listen. But while Derek was busy checking his engagement likes, he missed the breaking news notification that would shatter his entire reality. The woman he just discarded wasn't struggling. She was stepping into an inheritance that makes billionaires look like paupers, and she was about to become his boss. The ink on the divorce papers wasn't just dry, it was practically fossilized in Derek Bolton's mind. He sat in the high-backed leather chair of his corner office at Stratton Oakmont Financial, swirling a glass of sparkling water that cost $12 a bottle. He looked out over the Manhattan skyline, a view he felt he finally deserved. "You should have seen her face, man," Derek laughed into his AirPods, talking to his best friend, Kyle. "Lydia didn't even fight for the alimony. She just looked at me with those big, sad doe eyes and signed. It was pathetic, honestly. Zero fight, zero ambition. That's why I had to get out." "She didn't ask for the house?" Kyle asked, his voice crackling with static. "Nope. She packed her bags and moved into some studio apartment in Brooklyn. Can you imagine? Going from our place in the Upper East Side to Brooklyn? It's embarrassing. I almost feel bad for her." Almost. Derek ended the call and swiveled his chair around. He checked his reflection in the darkened monitor of his computer. At 34, Derek was handsome in a generic corporate way. Sharp jawline, expensive haircut, and a suit that cost $3,000. He was a senior vice president, and in his mind, he was a god. He unlocked his phone and opened Instagram. There it was, his latest post. A picture of Jessica's hand resting on his arm, a massive 4-carat emerald-cut diamond glittering on her finger. The caption read, "Upgrade complete. New chapter with a woman who understands the hustle. Power couple. New beginnings." It already had 400 likes. Jessica was everything Lydia wasn't. She was 24, an influencer with a vague job description that involved attending events and looking expensive. She was loud, demanding, and obsessed with status, traits Derek mistook for ambition. Lydia, on the other hand, had been quiet. She was a librarian who wore oversized cardigans and spent her weekends volunteering at animal shelters. She was sweet, reliable, and to Derek, utterly suffocating in her mediocrity. He had married Lydia 6 years ago when he was just a junior analyst. Back then, her stability was comforting. She paid the bills when he was broke. She cooked dinner when he worked late. But now? Now he was a shark, and sharks don't swim with guppies. "Derek?" He looked up. Jessica breezed into his office, smelling of Chanel No. 5 and entitlement. She was wearing a white dress that was a little too short for a corporate office. But Derek loved the envious looks he got from the junior associates. "Babe," he grinned, standing up. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk about the venue," Jessica said, pouting as she dropped her Hermes Birkin bag onto his desk. "The plaza is saying they're booked for our date. Can you believe the audacity? I told them who you were." Derek puffed out his chest. "Don't worry, I'll make a call. Who's the event manager?" "Some guy named Richard," she sighed, checking her nails. "Also, I saw your ex today." Derek froze. "Lydia? Where?" "I was grabbing coffee in Soho. She was coming out of that old, dusty, antique bookstore. She looked rough, Derek. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, wearing a trench coat that looked like it was from a thrift store." Jessica giggled cruelly. She was carrying a box of books. I almost offered her $1. Derek let out a barking laugh. God, that's tragic. I told you she has no drive. She's probably selling her old books to make rent." "I made sure she saw the ring," Jessica added, her eyes gleaming with malice. I waved. She just stared at me and got into a cab. Not even an Uber, Derek. A yellow cab. "Well, let that be a reminder of why I chose you," Derek said, pulling her close. "You're the future. She's ancient history." But Derek was wrong about one thing. Lydia hadn't been staring at the ring with jealousy. She had been staring with pity, and she wasn't getting into a cab because she couldn't afford an Uber Black. She was getting into a cab because her usual driver, a massive ex-SAS bodyguard named Arthur, was currently circling the block in the armored Maybach, waiting for the paparazzi to clear out. Derek had spent 6 years with Lydia, and in all that time, he had never once asked her about her mother's maiden name. He knew her father was a schoolteacher from Ohio. He knew she liked Earl Grey tea. But he didn't know that Lydia Hart was a shortened alias. He didn't know that her full name was Lydia Hart Sinclair. And he certainly didn't know that the dusty antique bookstore she walked out of was actually the private archives of the Sinclair Foundation, which she had just finished inspecting before the board meeting that would announce her as the sole heiress to the Sinclair Media Group, a conglomerate that owned half the news stations in the country, including the financial network Derek watched every morning. 2 weeks later, the save-the-date cards for Derek and Jessica's wedding went out. They were heavy, cream-colored cardstock with gold leaf lettering, costing $15 a pop. Derek wanted to make a statement. He invited everyone, his boss, the CEO of Stratton Oakmont, his clients, and even his old college rivals. He also, in a stroke of drunken arrogance, sent one to Lydia. "Why would you invite her?" Kyle asked over drinks at a rooftop bar in Chelsea. Derek swirled his whiskey. "Closure, Kyle. Plus, I want her to see what she missed out on. I want her to see Jessica in that Vera Wang dress. I want her to see the ice sculpture. I want her to realize that leaving me was the biggest mistake of her life. Didn't you leave her?" "Semantics," Derek waved a hand. "The point is, I want her to suffer a little. Is that bad?" "It's petty," Kyle laughed. "But I like it." Meanwhile, across the city, in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, a property that wasn't listed on Zillow, and had been in the Sinclair family since 1920, Lydia held the invitation between 2 fingers. She was sitting in a velvet armchair, wearing a silk robe that cost more than Derek's entire wedding budget. Her hair was down, cascading over her shoulders in glossy waves. There were no messy buns here. "He invited you," a voice came from the balcony. Lydia turned. Standing there was Tobias Thorne, the family's chief legal counsel and her childhood best friend. Tobias was sharp, dangerously intelligent, and the only person who knew the full extent of the transition Lydia was undergoing. "He did," Lydia said, her voice cool and amused. "Derek has always been a fan of the theatrical." Tobias walked in, pouring himself a glass of vintage scotch. "The man is a moron. He's celebrating a promotion to SVP while you're about to be named chairwoman of the board that owns his bank's parent company. Does he have any idea?" "None," Lydia smiled. "I played the part of the dutiful, simple wife very well, Tobias. I wanted to see if he loved me, or if he just wanted a prop. When he started complaining that I wasn't ambitious enough because I didn't want to go to gala dinners every night, I knew it was over." "So are you going?" Tobias asked, gesturing to the invitation. "To the wedding?" Lydia tapped the card against her chin. "The wedding is on the 14th of next month." "The same day as the Global Media Summit," Tobias noted, "where you're making your first public appearance as the Sinclair head. Exactly, Lydia said. I can't go, but I can send a gift. A toaster? No, Lydia's eyes glittered. Something more appropriate. Derek loves status, right? He loves feeling important. I think I'll buy the venue. Tobias choked on his drink. You're going to buy the O'Haker Castle? Not the whole castle, Tobias. Don't be dramatic. Just the hospitality group that manages their events. I was looking at their portfolio anyway. They're undervalued. If I acquire them, I technically become his host. You are terrifying, Tobias grinned. He wanted a power couple. Lydia stood up, walking to the window to look out at the city lights. He wanted drama. He wanted a story to tell his friends. I'm just going to give him a better ending than he planned. Back in his office, Derek was stressing over the seating chart. Jessica was screaming at a florist on the phone. No, I said white peonies, not cream. Are you colorblind? My fiancé will sue you. Jessica slammed the phone down. Derek, you need to fix this. Everything is going wrong. The florist is an idiot, and now the band is saying they double booked. I'll handle it, babe, Derek said, massaging his temples. He checked his email. A notification popped up from Business Insider. Subject, The Sleeping Giant Wakes, Sinclair Estate. Finally named successor. Derek deleted it without reading. He didn't care about old money families. He cared about his wedding. He cared about showing the world he had arrived. He picked up his phone and texted Lydia. Hey, sent you an invite. No hard feelings. Hope you can make it. It's going to be huge. He watched the 3 dots appear, then disappear. No reply. She's probably crying into a pint of ice cream, Derek muttered to himself, feeling a sick sense of satisfaction. He had no idea that at that exact moment, Lydia was sitting in a boardroom surrounded by 12 men in grey suits, signing a document that authorized the acquisition of the Prestige Hospitality Group, the very company Derek had just paid a $50,000 deposit to. Mr. Bolton, his assistant, knocked on the door. There's a call for you. It's the bank. Something about your credit limit? What? Derek snapped. I'm a VP. Put them through. He picked up the phone. This is Derek. Mr. Bolton, this is fraud prevention. We noticed a massive charge for a wedding venue, but we also see you've maxed out 3 cards on jewelry and a lease for a Porsche. It's an investment, Derek shouted, sweating slightly. I'm good for it. My bonus is coming next month. Right. Well, we need to freeze the accounts until you can verify some income streams. It looks like your debt-to-income ratio is getting risky. Do not freeze my cards, Derek roared. I have vendors to pay. He slammed the phone down. Jessica looked at him, eyes wide. Is everything okay? Fine, Derek lied, loosening his tie. Just banking errors. Competence is hard to find these days. He walked to the window, looking down at the street. He needed this wedding to be perfect. He needed everyone to see he was a winner. If he had to max out every card and leverage his 401k, he would do it. Because the only thing worse than being broke was looking broke. And somewhere out there, Lydia was probably knitting a scarf, completely unaware of how high Derek was flying, or so he thought. 3 days before the wedding, Derek felt like the king of New York. He had managed to secure 2 invitations to the opening cocktail hour of the Global Media and Finance Summit. It was the most exclusive networking event of the year, held in the Diamond Ballroom of the Pierre Hotel. Tickets were $5,000 a head, but Derek had bullied a vendor into giving him their corporate passes. This is it, Jess, Derek said, as they stepped out of the Uber Black. He adjusted his cufflinks. Everyone who is anyone is here. If I play my cards right, I'll secure the financing for my own firm within a year. Then I can tell Stratton Oakmont to shove it. Jessica, wearing a silver sequined dress that caught the light aggressively, looked around with a critical eye. The lighting in here is terrible for selfies, she complained. immediately pulling out her phone. And why are there so many old people? Those old people control the global economy, babe. Try to look impressed. Derek scanned the room. It was a sea of bespoke suits and power players. He spotted his boss, CEO Marcus Sterling, standing near the bar. Derek grabbed a glass of champagne and steered Jessica toward him. "Mr. Sterling!" Derek boomed, extending a hand. "Great event, right?" Sterling looked at Derek with a mix of confusion and mild annoyance. "Bolton? I didn't know you were on the guest list." "Oh, you know me. Always where the action is." Derek winked. "Big things coming. Big things." Sterling nodded vaguely and turned away to speak to a senator. Derek didn't care. He counted it as a win. He was rubbing shoulders with the elite. He belonged here. "Oh my God," Jessica hissed, digging her nails into Derek's bicep. "Look, over there by the ice sculpture. Tell me that isn't her." Derek turned. His stomach dropped. Standing near a quiet corner of the room was Lydia. She looked different. Gone were the oversized cardigans and the messy hair. She was wearing a midnight blue velvet gown that fit her perfectly, modest yet undeniably expensive. Her hair was swept back in an elegant chignon, and around her neck hung a simple sapphire pendant that looked suspiciously real. She was talking to an older man with white hair, Tobias, the friend. Derek had never bothered to meet properly during their marriage. "What is she doing here?" Derek whispered, anger bubbling up. "Did she sneak in?" "She probably seduced some old guy to get a ticket," Jessica sneered, though her eyes lingered on Lydia's dress with jealousy. "Look at her, trying to fit in. It's embarrassing." Derek downed his champagne. "I'm going to handle this. I can't have her ruining my reputation by begging for drinks at my business event." He marched over, Jessica trailing behind him like a shark sensing blood. "Lydia," Derek said loudly. Lydia stopped talking and turned. Her expression didn't change. There was no fear, no sadness, just a calm, cool gaze that unsettled him. "Hello, Derek," she said smoothly. "Jessica. Lovely dress. Very shiny." "Cut the act, Lydia." Derek stepped closer, lowering his voice. "How did you get in here? Security is tight. Did you cater the event? Or are you just a +1 for Grandpa here?" He gestured rudely to Tobias. Tobias chuckled, taking a sip of his drink. "I assure you, Mr. Bolton, Lydia is exactly where she belongs." "Right," Derek laughed, a cruel, sharp sound. "Look, Lydia, I know the divorce was hard on you. I know you're probably struggling to pay rent in Brooklyn. But crashing a high-end summit to hunt for a rich husband, it's desperate. Even for you." Lydia's eyes narrowed slightly, the only sign of irritation. "Is that what you think I'm doing, Derek?" "I think you're jealous," Jessica chimed in, clinging to Derek's arm. "You heard about our wedding and you're trying to show up to make Derek jealous. But look around, sweetie. You're out of your league. These people are billionaires. You're a librarian." "I was a librarian," Lydia corrected softly. "I enjoyed it. It was peaceful, unlike this conversation." "Go home, Lydia," Derek sneered, "before security throws you out. I'd hate for you to make a scene. I have important people to impress tonight." Lydia looked at him for a long moment. A small, unreadable smile touched her lips. "You're right, Derek. You should focus on impressing people. You're going to need all the help you can get." She turned back to Tobias.